Let's take a look at this next project. First of all, the README. Oh, dog tracker. Simple app to track dogs you own. Clone the repo, install the dependencies, copy over the env, run a migration. That's weird. Seeder, and go to register. Awesome. So it looks like this person has set up everything that I need. Let's just look at a test here real quick. Feature. Whoa. All right, unit. Let's just make sure what we're looking at here. Let's see. Livewire models. Okay, so there looks like there's a lot of authentication tests, browser session tests. All right, so these are probably these Jetstream tests that they have in there. So I assume those are working fine. Let's look at their feature for models. Test policy. So I don't think that this is a feature test. This is something that's more of like a middle layer, which we call an integration test. So a unit test would be something that's just pure basic code. Integration is something that interacts with something else, like a database or something. And a feature test is the full use case from start to finish that a feature goes through or a user would experience. So in this particular example, this dog test policy, getting a dog, doing the factory, and they're basically testing all the different policy methods on whether this user can look at this dog or work with a different dog. And this is a great test. But first of all, if you're going to do this test, it should be in the integration. And second of all, I think that this test would probably be more so happening with the feature endpoints on, like, if we edit or update a user or update a dog, the first test would be success with the dog that the dog owns. So that would be a true here. And the second test would be an attempt to update a dog that the user doesn't own. And that would throw some sort of 403 exception on an endpoint. And that's how you'd end up getting this under test. So I wouldn't necessarily do this, but if I did, it would be an integration test. Dog test and dog list test. So dog list test authentication, making sure we're doing some authentication. Let's look at our web routes here real quick. Welcome message like normal, middleware auth saying dashboard. So they're just basically, this is just a dashboard with this dogs list. Okay, so this is a full page Livewire app. All right, so dogs list must be the full endpoint, and then maybe this dogs test is just to make sure that this particular okay. So this is a component, a Livewire Livewire dog. So there's a dog component, there's a dogs list page. So this is testing the dog component individually. Test rendered successfully. All right. Generally, this is just a point for me and has nothing to do with this code, but I would do test renders successfully, mainly because all of my other methods and functions are in this, camel case. And I don't want to do the snake case unless I have to for like database stuff. So, but this still works. All right. So this is basically getting a dog, passing it in there, making sure it's okay, and seeing some default stuff. So is there a name? Is a dog's name? So this is going to get a little into the minutia here, but I wanted to show you something. It's possible that there could be a very unique, weird bug that would happen, that dog breed name or dog name or all these different things didn't line up properly. So what we probably want to do is, if there's like a dog breed name, let's just see what that is. Is that a model? So generally when I do this kind of stuff, I want to do like, breed equals something like that. And then dog model for breed. And so then I know that it's actually going to be like the breed name. And then to take it one step further, what I'll do is I'll even start removing some of the programming from this. Is I want my test to be very simple and very easy to understand. So if I'm going to say, what's the label here? Name. So I'm going to say name, corgi. So instead of doing this here, I would say corgi. Just because I know that is that value. You can go either way. As you start to make these more and more complicated, though, it usually makes sense to have specific unique names here, so it's just easier for us to understand. Otherwise, you might have like 7 breed variables, like breed 1, breed 2, breed 3, and then trying to line all those up gets really confusing. Anyway, test validation. So in a method like this, I usually want to see what validation we're checking this appears to be checking for required. So it would be like test validation fails required. That'd be a good name for that, because there's probably other validation as well. We should probably look, actually. So yeah, dog. Oh, it's probably on the, let's see, where is this? Livewire, dogs list, validation. Call, save, assert, method has error. So if we're on our dog, we call save, this authorizes, oh, it's a nested form. Whoops, my bad. Great job. Okay, so we have our validation here. Yeah, so we have like integer and we have min and all those different things too. So when I'm doing my test, I'd want to have it specifically say what validation failed. Test user can edit their own dog. So this looks like some policy stuff. That's good. I like this. Generally, I don't do this assert database has, because that basically tells me that I need to understand how the database structure is, and database structure could be different. It's nice for this table that they're using the model, of course, because that kind of tells you, well, this is the model, because the model could be different than a name. But in general, we don't want to go down to the database, because that's a implementation detail that we don't need to have part of our test. What we really want to know is this dog updated? So if we're going to update our dog, we get it here, and then we say dog refresh. So that would get a new version of it. And we can do self assert same, and we can do, you know, something like this. Only breed ID, yeah. Something like that would be a better way of doing that. And the reason we do that is because we get a fresh thing out of the database, or it could be out of the cache, or it could be out of anywhere. It doesn't really matter. All we're doing is we're saying if we can update that and make sure the updated value is the same. So that's what we want to do. Test user can edit other dogs. Cannot edit other dogs. So if you do this and they assert forbidden, good. So this is kind of how that policy stuff gets tested. User can delete their own dog and cannot delete other dogs. Perfect. All right. Kind of went through all this tests. So let me continue on. The next thing I usually do is so I know a little bit about this project now, so I'm gonna kind of jump around. But it looks like they have app layout and guest layout. So those are just typical Breeze sets up, providers, app service, Fortify, and Jetstream. Again, all stuff beyond what I was just talking about, this dog policy. View any, return true, that makes sense. The dog user is, okay, so making sure the dog is that, can they create it? Yep. Is it this? Is it, yeah, they're basically just checking to make sure that they all exist. We're not doing any restore or delete, so instead of having that, I would always have those either not defined or return false. Because basically, we haven't necessarily determined what the requirements are for restoring. Maybe it's you can restore your dog, but you have to be an admin or something like that. If we leave this in here like that, this is going to work. As if we put it return false or not defined, they're going to fail. Then we know that we have to define those if we were to use them. Take a look at our models here real quick. Breed, belong dogs, dog, breed, and user has dogs. And the rest of this stuff just looks like stuff from Jetstream. All right, let's take a look at the Livewire stuff. So we have our dogs list. Let's just jump into dog here. Okay, dogs, dog list, traits, forms. All right, so pretty simple. Dogs list. It's a component. It has breeds and has users. Let's see where else those are used. Why are those traits? So it's used in dog and it's used in dogs lists. Is the same thing with this? Just used in dogs list. So I generally wouldn't have a trait if it's only used in one place. So I know that Laravel does that a lot of times to break up their code, but that can be really frustrating when you're trying to go through the code and you're like, well, where would this method be if I was trying to look for it? Or sometimes you want to look at code and see other context. So anyway, get our collection, our dog breeds, unsaved, deleted. So unsaved or deleted, they want to mount this again. Doesn't seem like a good way to do that. Mount will happen the first time it runs. So what they really wanted to do here was put this inside of like maybe a boot instead. Because my guess is that they really want this to happen on every time the thing loads instead. because mount is just the first time it's mounted. And then when you do actions like save or delete, they probably wanted this dogs to be updated. So you could do that with boots, or you could just, make it, updated and send the values in here. Create dog. So we're validating data. I like that. When we do something like exists, it's usually better to, let me break this up to make this a little easier to understand. We want to break this up into like a better, easier to understand thing, so we don't have to do concatenation. So we'll do something like, we get this rule, and we do exists, and the table is breed, and then the column is ID. And that's how we do that. That makes it a little bit easier to understand. If you left out this ID, it would just look for the exists with new dog breed ID, so we want to put this ID in there as well. There's additional stuff here. Okay, we're getting a new dog and filling it. It's not the way I would do it. I would create it off of my user. So I would do create here with the values in there as well. But again, I'm glad that they're using the validated stuff, resetting some of the values, and dispatching save so it reloads. All right. So that could be done a little bit better, but it's not bad. Dog. So, all right, dog, fill, get attributes. Okay. So basically they're just saying on this form, fill that form with all the attributes. So let's look at our form here. Oh, that's something from Livewire built in. So it's basically putting in the values, breed ID, name, and birth year from there. And that's how we do it. So render it, so we authorize saving on it, this dog. So good. Then we validate the rules. I don't believe you have to pass in this form rules validate. I believe that if you just call validate, it's going to be smart enough to know it's the rules on the form object. Update the dog with that, editing is false, and dispatch events. Same thing with delete, pretty simple. All right, so I like the tests. I like how this has put their project together. I think there is a little bit of a lack of understanding of how some of the base core parts of Livewire work yet, but looking pretty good for a mid-level project. Okay, this one's a little bit different. I'm going in not blind. The programmer asked if they could use Laravel 0 to create this instead of just Laravel.